Okay, I'm back.
Michael Shames, you can.
Your Honor, how much time do we have remaining? How much time? 12 and a half minutes. I promise I won't use it all. I can still say good morning. It's 8 minutes to noon. Good morning, Commissioners. I've been assigned the task of batting cleanup. And it's my job to make sure that the statements offered to you by the opponents today in today's oral arguments were truthful and consistent with the record. And so that's most of what I want to do here with the time I have remaining. I got to tell you, I was sitting over there listening to the ISO and SDG&E, and I was convinced they were right. They're right. There was just one small factor that prevented me from signing off totally, and that was they don't have their facts right. That if anything of what they said was consistent with the evidentiary record, it's a whole different story. You need to, unfortunately in this exercise, you're going to need to be looking at the evidentiary record, and you're going to need to look at the comments that are filed by the parties. And I'm going to go through and give you a couple of examples, but Commissioner Grunick was not exaggerating. This is a complicated case. Without that evidentiary record, and without the facts in that record, it's going to be very difficult for you to make a decision geared towards the policy that I think you want to espouse, which is finding a way of promoting renewables. But the record is going to have to be adhered to. I'll give you a couple of examples. You heard from the ISO this morning. Time is of the essence. This is urgent. And yet the evidentiary record shows just the opposite. That in fact, a new line is not needed until 2014 and probably not until 2019 if UCAN's Path 44 proposal turns out to be viable, as the PD suggests it may well be. SDG&E says to you, without this line, there'll be a chill on the renewables. Renewable developers simply will not. In fact, you heard hearsay testimony provided by Ms. Reed to that effect, that renewable developers will not develop their projects in the Imperial Valley without a guarantee, a commitment that Sunrise is going to be built. But it's not in the record. And why isn't it in the record? Because, in fact, SDG&E acknowledged in the record, what's stopping renewable developers from building is contracts. If SDG&E or Edison were to enter into those contracts, those would be developed. And then it would be incumbent upon SDG&E and the ISO to find ways of getting that power delivered to somebody, whether it be to SDG&E directly or some other utility. So the problem, what's truly relevant, isn't so much whether the developers won't build without the line. What's truly relevant and what the challenge you face is, will the developers develop that project if the line is built? Because based, again, on the record, it is not clear. Not only is it not clear, there's a lot of evidence to suggest otherwise, that you may well build that line and the Imperial Valley development will not occur. Both the SDG&E and the ISO this morning claim that the lines are needed to meet their 20% renewable portfolio strategy. Well, here's what the evidentiary record tells you. The actual record shows that as of 2011, SDG&E can schedule up to 1,150 megawatts of firm renewable power into San Diego and another 750 megawatts of non-firm renewables, if it so chose with the existing system. The record also shows that from the north, it can schedule probably another 1,000 megawatts of power into San Diego that can be renewable as well. Now, I'm not making up this fact. This is actually a fact that's based on a planning document that was presented in the record, developed by SDG&E itself. It's in there, and in our comments, we'll cite the exact exhibit number. Additionally, the record shows that UCAN presented a comprehensive proposal that would cost less than a tenth of what the $1.7 billion sought by Sunrise. That would allow SDG&E to increase its import capability an additional 350 megawatts on top of what they can currently import. That additional import capability could be used to bring in power over the lines. Again, look at the record. SDG&E also acknowledges the 350 megawatts of power that Sterling is planning on preparing can be brought in now without a new power line. The ISO this morning tells you that The prime renewable areas in California are the Imperial Irrigation District, IID, and the Tehachapis. Well, that just isn't supported by the record. In fact, the documents in the record show there's far more renewable projects in San Bernardino County than in Imperial Valley. So what's the truth? Now, another one, SDG&E this morning claims that the cost cap is unfair. Well, you got two problems here. First, the record shows that SDG&E repeatedly refused to acknowledge that this commission has any right to impose any cost cap, and that even if you did, they reserve the right to go to FERC because they believe FERC is the entity that has ultimate jurisdiction over any cost recovery for Sunrise. Additionally, there's evidence in the record that the southern route actually should cost less than the $1.7 billion estimated for Sunrise, the northern route. Ms. Reed today says it's more. Will she state a figure? No, she hasn't. Presumably in the comments, SDG&E will offer how much more they think that line will be, but again, the evidentiary record suggests that the southern route actually should have cost less, not more. Now, if you're confused, don't be. I mean, the truth is SDG&E has massaged so many numbers and contorted so many facts in this proceeding that oftentimes I felt like I was in a chiropractor's office, not in an evidentiary hearing. So you're really going to have to bear down on that record again and look at what were the facts that were proven through that evidentiary process. Here's the argument, boiled down to its essence as I hear it. SDG&E and the ISO say if you build it, they will come. The alternate decision says, folks, sell some tickets before we build it. That's essentially what I hear is the difference. What the AD is asking for is for SDG&E and the ISO to show that if in fact 1.7 or $2 billion or whatever how much money it ends up being, if $2 billion or $1.7 billion of ratepayers' dollars are invested in building a line, that line will be used for the purposes to which you all believe it should be, which is to bring in renewables. Now, there was another document in the record, a document that was a press release by SDG&E in 1984, in which it touted the construction of the Southwest Powerlink. At the time, it promised that the Southwest Powerlink would be used to bring in renewable power from the east. As it turns out, that line was never used for that purpose, even though it was touted for that reason. History offers us a lesson. The AD is entirely appropriate in saying if we are going to put another $1.7 billion into infrastructure of ratepayers' monies, we need to be sure that that line will be used for renewables. If you listen to Ms. Reed's pledge to you this morning and you look at it carefully, you'll see SDG&E made no such pledge. They said it would make their best efforts to ensure the renewables brought in over that line. It will not commit. It will not risk its own stakeholder or ratepayer or shareholder dollars to that pledge. It's essentially making the same pledge as it made in 1984 when it argued in support of the SWPL, Southwest Powerlink. And your job, one of your challenges will be to ensure that the pledges made by SDG&E and your goals that renewable power be brought over that power line will in fact happen. The evidentiary record as it stands right now does not give you that confidence.